الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام الأتمان الأكملان على خير خلق الله أجمعين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. All praise due to Allah. We praise Him and we ask Allah to exalt and mention, grant peace and send His salutations and His blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon his companions, his wives, and all those who follow them on their path of righteousness until the day of recompense. It only gets worse. Sometimes it gets better. It really depends on what we're discussing. But the more or the harder we try to make things get better, sometimes they only seem to get worse. But then again, should we be shocked? No. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ prophesied that it will get worse. Things will get worse. Az-Zubair bin Adi said that we went to Anas bin Malik and we were complaining to him about the suffering the suffering we had at the hands of the Hajjaj, who was a saffah, he was just a mass murderer, killing people, scholars, people of knowledge, anyone whom he didn't like, really, just get rid of him. And it was a big fitna. It was the ruler, it was the person, responsible for the sheep under him. So they were complaining about the situation. This was way back. And he said to them, radiyallahu anhu, he said, be patient until you meet your Lord. For no time will come upon you, but the time following it will be worse. I heard this from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if that was said way back, and now we find surely that every time a new era comes, it is worse than the previous, in a sense that the Muslims' condition overall is going downwards, not the other way around. There are some hopes and there are some good things that are taking place. We're not being negative here completely, but we're saying overall, if you were to compare the time of the Sahaba, then the Tabi'een, then Atba'u Tabi'een, and going until now, we'll see that things haven't been the same at all. I mean, the overall adherence to the religion is always declining, except in some rare cases. And so, what would we say about today? Then obviously, it is more applicable to us that matters will get worse. Every time is getting worse than the previous one. Now, even though this hadith applies to so many different things, it has a general meaning. It's a general meaning. There are various aspects, or we would like to highlight the aspect of this hadith which is relevant to current affairs. How does it relate to our current affairs? When we hear that the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us that every time which will come will be worse than the one which preceded it. Meaning, what do we expect and anticipate for the future? And what is our recovery plan? What is our plan? Just to wait it out, watch how it happens, enjoy it taking place, talk about it? Or do we have to have an action plan that we must adhere to strictly and work on executing to get things better? Because we were also promised the betterment of this ummah towards the end of time, and the revival of the ummah, and the victory which will be granted to the ummah. And all of these are taking place simultaneously. While some things go down, others are going up. So we have to kind of make a choice on which side of the coin we want to be. Now, I wanted then to relate this hadith to the current da'wah affairs. And those of you who attended the khutbah a couple of weeks ago, that was the topic of the khutbah. However, the khutbah was only like a prelude. It was an introduction to the details. So this is what the ulama say, tafsil al-mujmal. It's like an analytical breakdown of what was previously general. We want to dig deep. The khutbah highlighted some fundamental principles which we should be aware of in regards to the da'wah scene. And the da'wah scene has become very different because of the overflux of du'at and YouTube speakers and the internet. And so, the general masses who are out there watching these YouTube videos or getting the DVDs or the MP3 files or whatever, there's a huge confusion as to who to listen to and who not to listen to, and who's okay and who's not okay. And it's really a big dilemma. It's a dilemma for born Muslims, new Muslims, and for even non-Muslims who think about Islam. I mean, what are you going to do once you come in? And from where are you going to take your knowledge? So, that may also remind you of a previous lecture which highlighted some of these, which was, why are you doing this to the Muslims? However, that was also targeting a particular group of people, organization whose names were not mentioned, alhamdulillah, so no one can get upset. But still, it does not deal with it in a general term. It did not lay down the foundation. So the objective tonight, inshallah ta'ala, with Allah's success, is to lay down these foundations and the three options which everyone has. Because these three options are available and people offer them, three opinions that the people give you regarding who to listen to and who not to listen to. The Prophet ﷺ, in relation to this fact, already told us as well that this ummah shall divide into how many sects? That's a lot. 73, mind you. If it was 17, we would say, that's a lot. If it was 7, we would say, that's still a lot. Because you have to choose 1 out of 7. Then 1 out of 17. Then 27, 37, or counted with the 3, 23, 33, 43, 53, 63, 73. And then the scholars say these 73 are actually like heads. Under some, there may be other branches also. So you're looking at a lot of stuff going on that will happen to the ummah, as we have seen happen to the Jews and the Christians. And the Christians are the biggest evidence on earth for what the Muslims, the direction the Muslims are going in. Look how many denominations they have within their denominations. Every time a new priest comes up with his own idea, he just makes his own church and he breaks off from the main church, and then it becomes a new church with a new ideology, a new philosophy, a new concept of God, and so on and so forth. So the Prophet ﷺ had told us about this. So the more we strive for unity, the more we see division. And he also ﷺ told us about the shortcuts. He said there will be shortcuts. A lot of shortcuts. And he mentioned that in a famous hadith which you must have heard at least 20 times if you have been following these lectures for some time. How many times do you mention the hadith of Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, when the Prophet ﷺ drew a line for the Sahaba and he said, this is the path of Allah which is straight, and he recited the ayah, and then he then he drew alayhi salatu wasalam lines on both sides of that straight line. He said, these are subul, these are paths. At the head or the top of each one is a shaitan, yad'u ilayh, calling you to that path or calling to himself. Which is another very scary hadith. When we're being told that there's only one way, and I'm not trying to advertise one way to paradise, but that's where it came from. There's really only one way, and then everything else is going to be someone who's not upon the sunnah trying to call us to something else. Now that one way doesn't mean it's one person. That one way could be hundreds of people, thousands of people, millions of people upon that one way. And then they could be triple or quadruple that on the other ways. But the point being, there's only one way for the things to be done, according to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And he also warned us about something very critical in this day and time, which is the magic of speech. Inna min al-bayani la sihra. In the hadith al-sahih in Bukhari, hadith of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, verily some speech has the effect of magic. So today we have many eloquent speakers. Many. Which is good and bad. It's good if that eloquence is supported and founded upon the proper aqidah and methodology. Allahumma barik. But if it is being misused to misguide the people, as we have many evidences for today, then it becomes a problem. Why? Because the people are often attracted. So what does magic do? When someone does magic, like some black magic, and separates a husband and wife, it's a form of deceiving the people. You get deceived, you get tricked into something that is not real. Or it could be real but satanic. So what the effect of magic on people is that they can no longer reason. Yeah, but mashallah, the lecture was so good. Yeah, akhi, I understand, but however, A, B, C, D, yeah, but come on. So you have a barrier now. A barrier which prevents you from moving forward. When someone doesn't have the ability to speak, then no one would listen to begin with, then we don't have an issue. So the eloquence which is prevalent today now can backfire unless we make sure that it is based on what is in agreement with the Quran and the Sunnah and the understanding of the righteous predecessors. So what are the three options available to us? Option number one says, listen to everybody and anybody, because everybody and anybody has something good to say. True or false? No, regarding the latter part of the statement, everyone has something good to say. True or false? True. Does Iblis have something good to say? Does he? What? Ahsant. Iblis told Abu Huraira a sunnah which we practice until today, that you recite Ayatul Kursi before you go to sleep. Does that make Iblis a sheikh now? Had something good to say. So this idea that just open your arms completely and accept everything is a bogus one. It does not mean that we assume, which is what some extremists will tell you. The assumption that some have is that everybody is misguided until proven to be guided. But the madhab of Ahl Sunnah is not that. That the person is guided, al-asl fil Muslim, annahu ala sunnah. The asl is he's upon the sunnah until you have indications that prove otherwise. Because if we don't understand this properly, then basically, okay, so all of you are misguided, give me the ones with the tazkiyah. Okay, 1, 2, 3, that's it. We will deal with this later in the lecture, inshallah. It is not the case. But you cannot accept everything and everyone. First and foremost, because that goes against textual evidences. The textual evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah is that guidance is with the majority or the minority? Minority. صح? وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يُضِلُّكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. If you obey the majority of the people upon earth, they will mislead you from the path of Allah. وَمَا أَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. And most people, even if you were keen on it, even if you strove for that, they will not be believers. Furthermore, Allah says, وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. And a minority, a small number among my slaves are truly thankful. And the list goes on. وَمَا يُؤْمِنُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ بِاللَّهِ إِلَّا وَهُمْ مُشْرِكُونَ. And most of them will not believe in Allah except that they will also associate partners with Him. So these are Quranic facts about how people will be, right? Sabiqun as-sabiqun, and then we have Ashabul Maymana, Ashabul Yamin, Thulla min al-awwalin, wa qalilun min al-akhirin, and then Ashab al-Mash'ama. So we already have this categorization. Then we have the Hadith. From each 1,000, how many will be entering paradise directly without any accountability? 1. 999, yes, it includes Ya'juj and Ma'juj and so on and so forth. Still, at the end of the day, numbers wise, statistically speaking, out of 1,000, only 1 will be straightforward. And then we have the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, لا تزال طائفة من أمتي على الحق ظاهرين. They shall remain a ta'ifa, a group of my ummah upon the truth, and they will be evident, they will be superior. They'll be in that position of power with the knowledge, not necessarily in other forms, politically or otherwise. So again, there's a ta'ifa of the ummah, not the whole ummah, a ta'ifa of the ummah. So if we were to say, listen to everybody, then we have a conflict with the fact that not everybody will be guided. So now you will receive the good and the bad. Number one. Number two, this does apply. This has its correct application. That you can actually technically expose yourself to anything and anyone, provided that what?
You have proper knowledge.
You're a student of knowledge learning from the scholars. That's why the ulama say, if you're a talib ilm and mutamakkin, you have the ta'sil. You know what's up, you've studied the aqidah, you've studied the issues, you know what's going on. These are the ones that the scholars say, if you want to read the book of Imam Ghazali, or you want to read the book of whoever among the scholars from the Asha'ira, for example, or the Mu'tazila, or people from the tafsir of whatever, from the Zamakhshari and others. This is for selective people who have the ability to filter, to scrutinize what is acceptable, so they take the good and they know that this is bad, so they turn away from it. Now this is a very important principle. It does apply when it comes to student of knowledge with the ulama. Whether these ulama are, obviously they're not full-fledged 100% guided, there may be some issues. This is where the student of knowledge has the ability to take the good and leave the bad. But if we were to apply the same rule and principle to a YouTube speaker with regular Muslims watching, then the truth of the matter is, the average person watching does not have the ability to differentiate between what is correct and what is incorrect, what is true and what is false, and therefore they will receive everything from that person. And as we mentioned in the khutbah, the one who's going to misguide you doesn't tell you, by the way, I've been speaking good for the last 5 minutes, I'm about to misguide you right now, so please pay attention. So you're like, oh, okay, let me just close my ears. Are you done? Okay, now let's continue. Because he will squeeze in whatever he believes, within his speech. Within his speech. And we're not saying that this is done intentionally. This person could be sincere, in sincerity wise, 100% sincere to Allah, but doesn't have the right knowledge. So we're not assuming that the people have evil intention and they have an agenda, how they're going to mislead the masses. We assume that Muslims are better than that. Any Muslim speaker should be better than that. But they could be misguided and unintentionally misguide the people along with them. Some of them know and they continue, some of them don't know, Allahu A'lam. This is not our job to open their hearts and say, you're a munafiq and you're a liar and you are, mura'i and so on and so forth. We cannot tell, and it's none of our business. But what we take is al-zahir, the apparent. What is apparent is that misguidance is being delivered to the person. So as a regular person, you can no longer listen to everyone because you will not be able to make that differentiation between what is true and what is wrong. And that's how people get led astray. Because they become so receptive to the material, and they obviously will start to develop some sort of admiration for that speaker, whoever that is. And once that emotional commitment takes place, it becomes very difficult for them to be told otherwise. Because now they like that person, not only as a person, they enjoy certain things. So when you come and tell them, but be careful of ABC, they, no. Very few people adhere to the truth to the extent that they will say, okay, you bring anything, I'm willing to abandon anyone for the sake of the Quran and the Sunnah. Not everybody can do this. Most people will just be more lenient and say, it's okay, khalli ma'al ma fi mushkila. And then we've seen with some of these institutes how far and bad things have gone. It started with a little thing, and then a bigger thing, and then a bigger thing, and now we have a disaster of the highest magnitude, where some of the biggest organizations that make the most money from these da'wah seminars that they have, because I have spoke to some people just recently who attended, $80 for 3 days, 300 people, $24,000. How much is that in riyals, man? Ouch, man. You're attending a da'wah seminar for 3 days and you get $24,000. This is only one event that one person I know personally attended. Don't ask about all the events which are taking place on weekly, monthly, I don't know how many basis. That's money right there. For da'wah, subhanallah, mashi. We understand that you need money to cover for the venue and so on and so forth. And there's reason. Sometimes there's a reason behind it. But very often it is more than that. And had we been dishing out some sound knowledge, ya akhi, we will kiss your head, come and here's another $200 for free. Use it to get some flowers, put them in the background. But the problem is we use these same events to divide and confuse the people and give them some new information which they weren't expecting. Some of these people I knew had to walk out during one of these seminars because of the material they were hearing that they couldn't believe they were hearing in these da'wah seminars where they're supposed to be taking knowledge. The amount of misguidance that is being delivered to the ears of the Muslims. And many examples were given in the lecture, why are you doing this to the Muslims? Where it becomes a comedy show or some entertainment show or whatever you want to call it. It's everything but real knowledge and da'wah. In the name of da'wah. So, the idea is then, we cannot listen to everyone and everybody because the average Muslim cannot make that differentiation. We cannot. So we have to know this position that says listen to everyone is no good. No good. It will eventually lead the people astray. The second position is the one which will be elaborated on the most because it is the most interesting one indeed. Don't listen to anyone. Except, of course there must be an except, yes, Shaykh. Don't listen to anyone except more or less these 5 guys. 5 brothers, 5 students of knowledge, whatever you want. And those 5 usually come from another 5. There's a family tree, in a sense. And those 10, 15, 20 worldwide are it. And if you're not in, you're out. Khalas, sealed, concealed, and done. But ya captain, la abad. We have it all figured out. If you don't take the knowledge from these people, you will never get there. So you must first go by their name. They have a name which you must adhere to. Failing in doing so is a crime of the highest degree. It's a big crime that will automatically send you to Jahannam. Be careful now, especially the name. That name is it. The whole thing revolves around the name. After you get that name and you put it all over, it's part of your name. Whether you have a YouTube channel, the name is there. Whether you have a Twitter account, the name must be there. Your email address, the name has to be there. It's just the name. It's all about the name. Right? You know which name I'm talking about. And then you have to praise those scholars. Praising them is wajib in the deen. You must praise them. How about if I want to become neutral? Can I be neutral? No. Being neutral means you're like the mufawwidah in the asma and sifat. Those who say, I'm not going to comment on the names and attributes of Allah. That's another crime. Therefore, you must show allegiance to these scholars, these select scholars. But what about the other scholars who come from the same methodology, who disagreed with those scholars? They were also good. You also refer to them. No. Today we have done some changes, and it's basically our way or the highway. We decided, we the unqualified, have decided that only these ones are acceptable. What those other ones said, they were good scholars, but they made a mistake there. Therefore, you have to ignore it, take this one only. Ya Shaykh, do you know the Fatiha? I'm still learning. Okay, barakallah feek. When you finish, give me a call. Then, you must receive tazkiyah from the same scholars. You may have a tazkiyah from a renowned scholar who failed in belonging to this group. Therefore, your tazkiyah is meaningless. No value. Sorry, it's like this expired coupon that you hope to get something from the supermarket. But they say, sorry, it's expired. So a tazkiyah from a scholar from outside of that circle is basically no tazkiyah. So you must receive a tazkiyah from them. You know tazkiyah from them, you shouldn't even be giving da'wah. You should close down your your whole da'wah efforts. Let the people go astray. It's okay, the non-Muslims don't need to enter into Islam. Let the scholars do the da'wah. And we will deal with this nonsense that they propagate. Only the scholars are supposed to be the ones who give da'wah. And then after you've done all this now, you've taken the name, so you're good. You've praised the scholars, now you're better. Then you beg for a tazkiyah from those scholars, mashallah, you're almost there. And then the last thing is, you must boycott the rest of the Muslims. If you don't, you're guilty by association. Now, how could you, akhi, talk with this mubtadi'? It's mubtadi' over there. How are you sharing the same? Why were you sitting with this mubtadi'? Tabi akhi, barakallah feek, can you define for me the bid'ah and the categorization of the bid'ah? And do the scholars differentiate between the initiator of a bid'ah and the one who fell into the bid'ah mistakenly? Are they the same? And then in this day and time, when bid'ah is prevalent, are you to deal with the people who fall into bid'ah like the people of Sunnah did hundreds of years ago when they were prevalent and strong, so boycotting was effective? All of these important issues that the scholars like Shaykh Albani rahimahullah clearly express to the people, those ones are of no importance to them. So he's a mubtadi', you sat with them, so you're off the manhaj. They're qualified, by the way. They tell you follow the scholars, but as in this regard, they make their own fatwa about who's a mubtadi' and who's not, which is a very dangerous declaration, least to say. Then you have to boycott the rest of the Muslims. When you do so, you pass the exam. Now obviously when you do so, even though you may pass the exam with them, you'll be bringing calamities upon yourself on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Because the very next thing would be, now you have to warn everybody about everybody. We have a lot, like they have a huge list, man. You know what I'm saying? It's not like there are 4 or 5, extremely deviant Sufis or, no. We have a huge list. In fact, everybody, except the 5 I told you about earlier, we have to come up with things now about everyone. Yalla, everybody sit at home and bring your books. No books. Bring your YouTube and sit there and watch hours and hours of videos until you say, gotcha. I knew you were misguided a long time ago. So you take that snippet out of the video and you twist it in such a beautiful way and then you show it to the people to show them they're misguided. One example which is mind-blowing. This one speaker, we're not going to discuss his position, whether he is guided or misguided, that's another discussion. But anyways, even though there are some arguments against him, which are valid, still, Allah commands justice. And this person who has this issue, he was telling his crowd how when he goes to the airport, every time he travels out of the States and then he returns to the States, the FBI and the immigration, whatever, they interview him, they interrogate him. What were you doing? Why were you traveling? He's a da'i. So they said to him, so he plays tricks with them. He's showing the people how he tricks them. They say to him, they say, are you a Sunni? Are you Sunni Muslim? He says no. He said, he's saying this to the people. I tell them no. If I'm Sunni, that means I only follow the Sunnah. I follow the Sunnah and the Quran. So it's a very clear thing that he's trying to show them how he deals with the interrogators by telling them that because they want to label him with something, he's telling him, I have no label. So when you come and bring this and say, now we don't know whether he's Sunni or Shi'i, because he's saying clearly to the people, I'm not Sunni. Ya Shaykh, wallahi aib. Either you're belittling the minds of the people and the viewers, or you don't fear Allah. This is a person who doesn't fear Allah. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, how he's going to deal with this cut and paste business that is abhorrent. So this becomes the task. Yeah, you will win with them, but you will go down the drain into this business of, and then you have to cover up for your buddy. So yeah, you see others going to extreme, it's okay, you have to cover up for each other, so it becomes a clan. It becomes a hizb. Even though we're against hizbiyah, we would fall into the biggest form of hizbiyah, sectarianism. And this is exactly what is happening. So those people, they say that they follow the ulama. All of these speakers don't follow the ulama. they follow the ulama. So it's ironic when they follow the ulama and then their ulama have something to say. It's one of the amazing things. Okay? One of their mashayikh, and they know exactly who it is, Suhaimi, so we can be, right in everybody's face. He spoke about this, the same people who say this is our Shaykh, Hafidhahullah, he's our Shaykh, this is what he had to say about them. And watch how accurate and clear is the depiction of the Shaykh in regards to these group of individuals. You will be shocked what he says and what they do. In describing their extremism, those people who are busy right now making videos of cutting and pasting, to cut and paste the person, put this speaker with that one, take segments from here, an excerpt from here, something from there, and mumbo jumbo, put everything together so that it seems like this movie, like a movie conspiracy against someone. Now we don't deny that the issues which they raise are often valid. Don't get me wrong. We don't deny that there are times when the person that they're criticizing deserves criticism, and that the issues that they're raising are actually valid issues. But the way it is being done, the way we're going about it is absolutely unacceptable. And it does not serve the purpose of nasiha which we want. It does not. It further repels the people. So the issue is not that every time they make a judgment about someone, it's wrong. It's how it is done in such a filthy way. Keep it honest so that the message is delivered. Once you start twisting things like that, people are not going to buy it. So even if you had a valid argument, you lost. You lost. He says, lack of concern towards studying and reflect upon the Quran and the authentic Sunnah. So they don't, and I'm going to paraphrase a lot of the Shaykh because it's very lengthy. But the Shaykh basically is saying that now their whole da'wah became the scholars. Their focus is on the scholars more so than it is on the Quran and the Sunnah. So much so that you may tell them any ayah from the Quran or hadith from the Sunnah, he will tell you, yeah, but our scholar said this, so I don't know what this ayah means or what this hadith means. It's probably wrong because our scholar said otherwise. So in the process, clear-cut ayat from the Book of Allah, which are muhkamat, and clear-cut hadith from the Prophet ﷺ are rejected on the ground that the scholars have something else to say. So their deen became very much like Sufism. The murid and the big sheikh, the peer and all that stuff. It's very much the same, but in a new name and a new way of doing things. So then the Shaykh was saying that they don't follow the Quran and the Sunnah in the ultimate way, because the da'wah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah is following the Quran and the Sunnah as per the understanding of the righteous predecessors, not blindly following the ulama. Secondly, their gatherings are devoid of the remembrance of Allah. The whole gathering is about, as they say, qila wa qal. And they have dedicated YouTube channels just about he said, and they said, and he's this and he's that. So there's no remembrance of Allah, there's no real benefit. The whole thing is about what's going on. We don't deny that there are times when this is necessary, but if that becomes your only business, something is wrong. Something is wrong. I mean, you can go to a channel, find a bunch of topics, some of them which have to deal with these issues, and it's another thing that the whole thing is about everybody else who's misguided. The Shaykh said they resemble the Khawarij. He said the Khawarij were the first sect to split away from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. They had deviated in the matter of takfir, which is declaring someone to be a kafir, a disbeliever. They applied the ruling of kufr upon that which did not necessitate kufr. For example, committing major sins. The Khawarij, if someone committed major sins, he became a kafir to them. What the Khawarij of old had done regarding takfir, we find this group doing in the name of tabdi'. Takfir from kufr, tabdi' is from bid'ah. So which is declaring someone to be an innovator or a person of innovation. They consider people to be out of the fold of Ahl Sunnah based on things which do not necessitate that. Also, the Khawarij of old took the text pertaining to the kuffar and applied them to the Muslims. Similarly, this group has taken that which applies to the people of innovation and applied it upon the Ahl Sunnah themselves. Deja vu. Deja vu. The Ahl Sunnah who have mistakes, who the person may have a legitimate mistake, and as the Shaykh will explain, that does not take him out of the fold of Ahl Sunnah. They are the biggest target now, more so than the real deviant people who should be warned against. Fourthly, faulty understanding regarding the asl, the origin of a Muslim. The Shaykh said with this group, the asl, the fundamental principle regarding a Muslim is that he is a person of bid'ah until proved otherwise, or until proven otherwise. With Ahl Sunnah, the asl regarding a Muslim is that he is upon the Tawheed and the Sunnah unless he takes a path of innovation. So when you meet someone, you don't assume that he's misguided, you assume that he is guided until something indicates that he has some form of misguidance. And even then, what may appear to you as misguidance could be actually correct. And you could be the one who is mistaken. So to ignore all of that and just assume automatically that everybody's misguided until that tazkiyah comes from the Shaykh, now we got a serious issue. He said, Hafidhahullah, not differentiating between soundness of the general manhaj and mistakes and errors in the details of the manhaj. He said, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah regard a person to be upon the Sunnah as long as his general manhaj is sound. The scholars have defined the general manhaj as following the Quran and Sunnah, or following the Quran and Sunnah according to the understanding of the Salaf or the righteous predecessors. Different wordings, but it all basically means the same thing. So, however, he said, we find this group considers mistakes in the details as if they are mistakes in the general manhaj. Mistakes in the details, to them, are mistakes in the general manhaj. And due to this, they make the ruling of tabdi' based on such mistakes. For example, praising or promoting a certain person of innovation or his books. Like Shaykh Muhammad Salih Munajjid. Okay? In his website, Islam QA, there's a part where someone asked him about, what's his name? The Ikhwani, Sayyid, not Sayyid, the other one, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. No. What's his name? The one that, Al-Banna? Hassan Al-Banna. أيوة صح. Yeah. No, the one of the Sahib al-Tafsir. Sayyid Qutb. Sayyid Qutb, ya Shaykh. Al-Muhim, you become a Qutbi, by the way. Ala tul. Qutbi. New words. Isn't it amazing how we can add new words? Huh? If your name is, whatever your name is, Hijni. So he's in agreement with the Hijn family. Oh, that's a big crime. Be careful of this guy now. So Qutbi, he became this big Qutbi, Sururi, all these words, The Daruri, Mafi Daruri, Bukra, Yiji, ila akhrihi, kullu yalla. Just add words as you like. He became the criminal of the century. His website is warned against. He's off the manhaj and all this because in one of the fatwa, he defended Sayyid Qutb. Did they fail to know that Shaykh Albani rahimahullah also defended Sayyid Qutb? No, they don't. But that doesn't suit them, so they don't highlight it. This one they keep under the rug. But if we were to pull out for them the abundant statements of Shaykh Albani, where he was fair and square. I mean, we're not saying that now become a Qutbi and follow the man of Sayyid Qutb rahimahullah. He had issues. Nevertheless, the scholars were fair and just in their criticism. He highlighted the good and warned us against the bad. So Shaykh Munajjid became totally off the manhaj because he has a problem in his manhaj according to them, because he promoted someone whom they have considered to be from among the people of the bid'ah. This is Suhaimi saying this. He's saying, for example, praising or promoting a certain person of innovation or his books, when the person who is praising is otherwise known for uprightness upon the book and the sunnah. The one who's doing the criticism, or the one who praised the innovator, he's known for being upon the sunnah. This is an error. Mashi, let's say it's an error, but does not mean that the person exits Ahl Sunnah due to this. So they hate Ahmad Didat, rahimahullah. And we say that Ahmad Didat, rahimahullah, also had issues. And when it came to matters of Aqeedah and the Islamic belief system, the Shaykh, rahimahullah, afallahu anhu wa an, he didn't have it sound. Because we assume and we hope that Allah will pardon him. He was busy in negotiating with the Christians on their biblical texts and so on and so forth. So if you were to say something now where you are pro, let's say you passed the wrong judgment. You said, Ya akhi Ahmad Deedat rahimahullaah, ma fi mushkila. Go ahead and listen to his debates. You automatically become off the manhaj because of this error that you supposedly made. You see the trend? It's a very dangerous trend. So basically anything you may do will cut you off ala tool. Tayyib, how are you going to hang in there? I tell you how you hang in there. You say, okay, my name, what's your name? Okay, my name is the same. And who's the Shaykh? I love the Shaykh. Khalas, then everything else goes. Ma fi mushkila, no problem. Everything we can bypass all the other problems now. You gave us the magic word, if I may say. You know, iftah ya simsim, and simsim open, you entered all in dandy, no issues, nothing to worry about. If you don't do this, however, you're under the microscope. We will catch you. Yeah? We got nothing else to do. Barakallah feek. Nothing else to do. Make nice clips and animation and all these, sound effects in the YouTube video. Person come in the beginning and all the end. Ya Shaykh. Wallahi aib. And you know what's funny about these people? The lack of fear of Allah in these people is that one of these videos, it's not about me wallahi, but one of these videos, obviously I'm the part of the video. And I'm communicating with these people. They're sending me messages, I'm sending them messages, and I'm saying, fear Allah. The person that you're trying to claim that I have endorsed, I'm telling you right now, I have my own stance about it. Okay? And it will be delivered in due time. So take me out of this, man. Don't put me in these videos because I don't agree. I no longer hold the same position. In spite of knowing that, they can't take down the video, man. It's bringing too many hits. And it's about getting hits. How many views does the video have? How many nasty comments you read at the bottom? That's what it's about. If you feared Allah, you would do something else. And we hope that we are among those. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal. Because that person that I wanted to speak about, because of a recent communication, made me withhold. Before we speak out, let's resolve the issues behind the scenes, behind closed doors. So we can minimize the fitna. That's what is expected of each and every one of us. You don't want to make the issues a problem. If you can fix it, fix it. But for them, they don't want to fix it. They want to make it worse. They enjoy this kind of business. The Shaykh warns them, but they're dumb, deaf and blind. Relying upon taking knowledge from the books. He said from the reasons of their deviation is that they took their knowledge only from books or internet and kept away from the people of knowledge around them. Because obviously Mufti al-Mamlaka al-Shaykh and Shaykh Fawzan were asked. Shaykh Fawzan was asked, Ya Shaykh, we beg you to advise these students of knowledge, and some of these people are falling into criticizing every da'i and every speaker. Advise them for the sake of Allah. The Shaykh Hafidhahullah said, the mistake has to be clarified. True. But it has to be done with wisdom. Without mopping the floor with the person. Without injuring him. Without insulting him. It has to be done in a certain way. Which we may fail in doing, honestly. This is the human error. But all the time, every time, regarding everyone, on constant basis, without seeing, when you remind you, say, yeah, I could have said it better. I was excited, I was emotional. Ma fi mushkila. But all the time, this is the manhaj. The Shaykh told them to calm down. And before you publicize, speak about the issue, but don't do jarh of the person. Don't mention the person. Did they bother to contact anyone to resolve the issues? They don't bother. And when they bothered to contact someone and try to resolve it with them, they still went on with their way. That proves to you how much effort they're making into fixing. Zero. But they say, we want you to join us. Come. It will be good. Abandon these ways and join us, it will be good. We have this and we have that. If you really did, you would have done what is pleasing to Allah. But it doesn't seem to be the case. So the Shaykh said, Hafidhahullah, that this is among their traits. He said, taking only from selected scholars and abandoning others. You will find some of these people of this group approving of taking only from some of the senior scholars of the Ummah. So based on this, they do not sit with any of the people of knowledge around them. Because their senior scholars are generally far away from where they are. To these people, it is either the ulama al-kibar, You hear this all the time. Kibar al-ulama, senior scholars or nothing else. What they fail to realize is that knowledge is of levels and the people of knowledge are of levels. From them is the student of knowledge, the alim, the mujtahid, the one who can perform ijtihad. And again, within each of these categories, people are of levels. Ilm is to be taken from all of these people because they do not speak except upon knowledge. Ahl Sunnah, who are upon the balanced way, say that the asl is to take from the best and the senior most people of knowledge, no doubt. If this is possible, otherwise we take from whoever from the people of knowledge are available to us and are amongst us. So we're not restricted to only a few. There are many ulama who have many things to offer that are upon the proper aqidah and manhaj with mistakes, just like every shaykh on earth has mistakes. These ones we can take from them, but to them they have also been labeled to be off the manhaj. Also, you will find that those say it's a must for a person to have a tazkiyah. Jazakallah khair ya shaykh. It's a must for a person to have a tazkiyah, recommendation or praise from a scholar, or an ijaza, permission from a scholar to narrate or teach a particular book. Only then you can take knowledge from him. With Ahl Sunnah, a tazkiyah or an ijaza is a means to identify a scholar or a person of knowledge. But the absence of the tazkiyah or ijaza does not necessarily mean that the person is not from the people of knowledge. There are other means which may even be stronger than these to show that a person is from the people of knowledge. From these ways is that the person is well known amongst his people for knowledge and uprightness on the sunnah. This in itself is sufficient for us to take from him and is in fact stronger than the tazkiyah. Very important, because they have been brainwashed, all of them, without an exception. The first thing they say, where's the tazkiyah? Fulan, who gave him the tazkiyah to be able to speak about this? So technically you cannot give da'wah to anyone until you have received the tazkiyah. How many people receive tazkiyah? Few. Those who receive tazkiyah, let's say for example Dr. Yahya al-Bahith. He saw that Shu'aib, mashallah, was an upright brother upon the sunnah and he knows the tajweed of the Quran, he says, yeah Shu'aib, I give you tazkiyah, you learned with me the kitab of such and such, you can teach it to the people. You go to them, say Dr. Yahya al-Bahith, they say, who's Dr. Yahya al-Bahith? Shh, yalla, you and your tazkiyah are out. You were supposed to get the tazkiyah from that shaykh over there, and your tazkiyah, ma'alesh, is this. Keep it for you, put it in the drawer, or hang it on your wall and be happy about it. So basically this is like a dead end. There's no solution. Either the tazkiyah from them or you have no tazkiyah. So many of the students of knowledge have tazkiyah from their shuyukh to be able to speak about the matters which they know they can discuss. So the shaykh is telling them, why are you imposing this tazkiyah on ijaza on people? And until now, the first thing they will ask you is, who are your shuyukh? Who did you study under? So and so. Shaykh Muhammad Bakhtar Shankiti. Sufi. Ya Shaykh, he's a Sufi? Yes, he's Sufi. When was he a Sufi? When did he teach us Sufism in the class? Sufi. But that's a serious accusation. One of the shuyukh in the same city said he's a Sufi. He must be a Sufi. Because that Shaykh wouldn't oppress him, ya akhi. But if we attended the Shaykh's dars for X amount of years, and never ever did we hear anything about Sufism, nothing but proper aqidah and manhaj and heart softeners and all the good al-khair. How are you going to do this, ya akhi? How are you going to do this? And declare the shaykh to be off because if someone said because it's that the tazkiyah he didn't get from fulan. There's no way, there's no solution. So their shuyukh are telling them, ya akhi, if one of our shuyukh has per se, as if our shuyukh and their shuyukh are two different ones, they're the same shuyukh, technically. If they told them this, they wouldn't accept. But their shuyukh are telling them this. Will they accept? No. إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ اللَّهِ. Except those whom Allah softened their hearts to wake up from this nightmare that they've been living and to realize that they have added things and they've come up with their own rules and regulations just like the other sects that they have been warning against. And that's exactly what Shaykh bin Uthaymeen said, rahimahullah. And they hate that. They hate that Shaykh bin Uthaymeen said that. And they come up with all kinds of excuses and justifications and whatever, why he changed his mind or he didn't mean this, he meant that. Yeah, akhi, he said it in the most explicit words. Their problem is they fell into the same trap of hizbiyah that they warned the people against. That's why the Shaykh was against it tooth and nail, rahimahullah. And there's no harm in following that position. There's no harm in following that position of the beloved Shaykh bin Uthaymeen. Who doesn't love Shaykh bin Uthaymeen? Subhanallah al-Azim. Yani until now when you're driving and you hear him in the morning when he's doing the tafsir, he has on Idha'at al-Quran al-Kareem, yeah Shaykh, you hear him say a few words and you fall in love. The halal love, of course. The Shaykh is an icon in this deen. Now, he becomes dead wrong because he didn't adopt that position which they prefer. And accordingly, anyone who follows him is also off the path. It's a very strange intellect. Very strange. It's from the tricks of the shaitan. And the reality, the Shaykh said, and the reality is that these people don't really take from these selected scholars as well, like him, hafidhahullah, because they only accept from them as long as what they say does not go against their manhaj. But if the scholar's advice and statement goes against their manhaj, you will see that they do not accept it. Rather, they invent dubious and twisted arguments in order to avoid what the scholars have advised them with. Subhanallah al-Azim. Eighthly, attacking the scholars and the people of knowledge. You will find that this group makes as their target the best of the people who are amongst them. And they are the people of knowledge from Ahl Sunnah. So they attack the Salafis in the name of Salafiyyah. And they attack the people of knowledge among them in the name of correcting the people, connecting the people with the scholars. How amazing, the Shaykh said. Do they realize the seriousness of their action? Do they not fear the standing before Allah and accounting for their speech and actions? Do they not know that the flesh of the scholars is poisonous? Indeed, to Allah we belong and to Him we shall return. Ninthly, giving fatwa without knowledge. And that is the most serious one, where they have become the imams of jarh and ta'deel. We thought that there were only a few in this ummah, especially current day imam. For an imam to be at the level of jarh and ta'deel, to tell you who's A and who's B and who's okay and who's not okay, that's really after you have accumulated a lot, or unless you're getting it from the scholars, or unless it's something that is based on clear-cut evidence. But now, those individuals have already done that job. And if they were following justice, then we say that's fine. But the problem is there's a lot of injustice in terms of who they've allowed and who they've kicked out from the manhaj. And therefore, they passed the most severe fatwa about people being off the manhaj, even though they say that you shouldn't be given fatwa except by referring them back to the scholars. Tenthly, taqleed of personalities, blind following personalities. So, if you read their comments, you can only laugh. Like there'll be one of their videos where they're bashing someone whom they love very much. And then, of course, they have a clan of people that are ready. They're always ready with their keyboards to type out the necessary comments to support the uploader of the video. And then you read their comments and you can 100% swear that this person has no idea what they're saying, and that they are falling into this blind following of scholars. I'm not going to mention the names out of respect for these ulama, wallahi, out of the respect for the ulama. But they say, yeah, well, I don't know about this guy, but we take the knowledge from Shaykh, and that's it. That's it. This is now taqleed of personalities. What do you say about the Shaykh? Huh? What? You don't like the Shaykh? Marhaba. You're done. Can we have a discussion? No need to discuss. Khalas. I don't mind the Shaykh, I'm cool. The Shaykh is nice and everything, but I have some reservations. Valid reservations, because there are other shuyukh who oppose that Shaykh on that particular point, and I just simply go with that other Shaykh. No. So they do this testing of the people per individuals, which is a bid'ah, according to the ulama of the Salaf. Testing the people by a person, allegiance with or against, is something that you cannot do. This whole mihna of fulan or fulan. And there's a lot of statements of the ulama, Shaykh Resembling Khawarij and others from the ulama about this particular issue. I mean, time does not allow to quote them, but this fitna of your stance regarding a person determines where you stand is from the bid'ah and not from the ways of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And I have the references for those who want it. 11, cutting and pasting statements and twisting them to distort their meanings. How lovely. In order to support their devious manhaj, and when they wish to attack Ahl Sunnah, they make use of the statements of the scholars of the Sunnah. So you'll see a video that says, Shaykh Fawzan refutes Fulan. And you're like, oof, the issue was raised to Shaykh Fawzan himself? Allahu Akbar, let me listen. Then you see Shaykh Fawzan is speaking about something totally different that has nothing to do with this guy. You know, someone asked him something general and he gave a general answer. So now they say, now this applies to this guy that we don't like. This is haram. The Shaykh didn't refute X person. Say the Shaykh refutes the idea of such and such, and whoever adopts this idea has automatically been refuted. But they put the names of people that the Shaykh did not mention. Neither was it mentioned to him, nor did he mention them in his answer. And maybe if they were to mention that person's name, the Shaykh would refrain, or would give another answer, or would say, wait, I need to inquire more. Where did you get this from? How did he say it? When did he say it? The Shaykh will usually not jump into conclusions. But they don't do that. Subhanallah. So the Shaykh said, they do this in this dubious way, but they do so in a treacherous way, because they take the speech out of its true context. They cut off the speech that precedes it or follows it, and paste it whatever suits their desires. They distort the meanings of the statements of the scholars and apply them in contexts and situations where they are not applicable at all. All of this is from their cunning and deception. We ask Allah for safety. This is their Shaykh saying this. And wallahi, they know deep down that they do this. They know it. They know it like they see the sun when it rises on a day that has 0 clouds. They know how evil their cutting and pasting is, and how deceptive, deliberate deception. But they don't change. And why? Why would you want to be responsible in Yawm al-Qiyamah and all these calamities? Why? Why don't you contact these people first? If they are not totally immersed in dalal, why don't you contact them and try to rectify things as your scholars advised? Why cut and paste? Among the other traits is testing the people, the individuals. We said this is not from the scholars of the Sunnah. Wasting away precious time, neglecting the affair of unity and brotherhood. That's the last thing on their mind, because you know the unity is only when you join that clan, and if you don't join it, you will never be upon the same brotherhood as they are upon. And the Shaykh said at the end, and we will almost conclude with this, he said a point related to the affair of da'wah. Basically, just to summarize, that the da'wah, the person, the more knowledge the person has, the more responsibility he has towards da'wah, and the less knowledge, the less the responsibility. But at the end of the day, everyone has a role to play. Of course, those who have the biggest role to play are the ulama, hafidhahumullah, for the Muslims. But then those who are below them have another role to play. Now the issue with these people is that they restrict it only to the ulama, and they ignore anyone else who can be a link between them and the ulama. Now the problem is that we do have a group of people who basically make the ulama seem foolish. And we ask Allah to guide them and forgive them for doing this to the Muslims. The last thing you want to do is make a alim look like he doesn't know what's going on in this world. He's oblivious to facts, and he's not knowing of things, and so on and so forth, as done by some of these people which we spoke about before without mentioning their name. It's a huge crime, because you're disconnecting the people from the scholars. At the same time, there are people in between that are not at the level of scholarship as the senior ulama, but also have a right, and also are involved in da'wah, and have a responsibility to make. So they prevent them from giving da'wah. They say, don't give da'wah. This is none of your business. Leave it for the ulama. We only do it from the ulama. We only take it from the ulama. We only have it from the ulama. So it becomes only the ulama, and the ulama are not doing that. The ulama have a bigger affairs to worry about. A alim, per se, generally speaking, a real alim who's knowledgeable, usually is not giving you a lecture in English. Let's keep it real. He is busy teaching tullab al-ilm in Arabic, who will learn from him. If they are bilingual, alhamdulillah, then it becomes their job and responsibility to convey what they learn from the ulama in the language which they speak with their people. And these people say, no, it's only the ulama of, for example, Saudi Arabia. Only the ulama of such country. They restrict it to certain places without others. It doesn't mean that ulama exist in every city in Los Angeles, in America, as some may claim. Just refer to the local ulama. Very often they are tullab ilm. So some exaggerate that every city in America has a alim, every city in England has a alim. And the other extreme is that there are absolutely no ulama except the Hayat Kibar ulama in Saudi. And so you can't access those, and you can't access those, then you go to Shaykh Google. And Shaykh Google, be changing every day. Google, every time you look for search, they have a new slogan, new background. This guy is very inconsistent. He gives you one fatwa in one day, and the next day gives you the opposite fatwa. It depends on the keywords. Huh? Be careful, man. Lastly, lack of mercy towards the creation. Vicious. Vicious, ya akhi. Subhanallah, the amount of hate and venom and it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's extreme hatred. Now supposedly this hatred is fi sabilillah. And we don't deny that there's al-mahabbatu fi sabilillah, al-hubbu fi sabilillah, wal-bughdu fi sabilillah, or al-hubbu lillah, wal-bughdu lillah. We love for Allah's sake and we hate for Allah's sake. But this is for who though? When do you reach this level? And even if you hated someone for the sake of Allah because they're deviating them, there should be enough mercy to hope that Allah Azza wa Jal will guide them. So regarding everyone that has ever been spoken about, don't we really wish that that person will be guided so we can be united? It's a wish we have. It's a wish we should strive for. And one brother was speaking to me about this, how wonderful it would be if all of those involved in da'wah and all the mashayikh and ulama, all of them were to come together upon the truth and just make it beautiful for the ummah. It's a wish. But believe it or not, some people don't wish for that. Because that will be too good. And then there will be no one to warn against. If everybody was upon the truth, who are we going to warn against? The Jews and the Christians, we don't have to worry about them. They're kuffar, but it's okay. This Bob is nice. Bob, my neighbor, is nice. Mustafa, the son of a gun across the street, this mubtadi' who goes to that masjid, who sits with that person, this, may Allah destroy him and break his back and snap him into pieces. Tab ya akhi, ma Allah yahdik. This is your brother in faith and this is your adu. Now things have changed. So Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, Jews, they get VIP treatment. And the Muslim brother gets the mop, the floor mopped with him. This is that lack of mercy which seems to be prevalent among them. So now that we've discussed all of this, and we hope and pray that they will follow the advice of their shaykh, it's for their own good. Those brothers who are making the videos, why don't you, ya akhi, spend time in memorizing something beneficial, upload something beneficial, more so than the warning. And those people you are warning against, who often deserve to be warned against, why don't we try to contact them so we can fix the issue instead of making it worse? Because it's not helping the da'wah. At the end of the day, it's not helping the da'wah. Who's paying for all of this? The da'wah of the righteous predecessors. The da'wah in that name is the one paying, because the people associate, because of the name they have hijacked, they associate their actions with the manhaj which we are trying to invite to. The people don't make that differentiation, that you're somewhere in between. Everybody's put in one category. And at the end of the day, it's harming the da'wah. So we need to work it out with these people. Those making the videos, we need to work it out and stop this. Whoever you want to contact, let's work together to get you that person's contact. Speak to him, ya akhi. After you speak to him and the ulama speak to him and all the necessary actions were taken, then you see it, you're like beating a dead horse, then make that warning with the way it's supposed to be done. Only then. But before that, ala tool, fulan and fulan and fulan, chopping heads from day one until today, wallahi, it's inappropriate. And the last thing I wanted to discuss is the fact that these two extremes, listen to everyone, don't listen to anyone except, the balanced way is listen freely to those whose aqidah and manhaj are clear. If there are some ambiguities which exist, let's try to address them. If there's an ambiguity, it could be because of a misunderstanding. Mind you, you don't live with this person, that shaykh or that da'i or that speaker. You don't live with him. All you see is a what? A 1 hour clip. Like right now, how many slips of the tongue I had? How many mistakes I made? Naturally, in this lecture. So if a person made a mistake in one of his talks, he might have intended something, or he might believe something and his tongue, let's say, betrayed him, and he said something else. This is where there's room for the benefit of the doubt. So we say that we actually, as long as the person is upon the Quran and the Sunnah and the understanding of the righteous predecessors with some mistakes, then we take from this person, and then when there's an issue, we refer back to the people of knowledge who advises about that problem that person has, then that problem is highlighted. Not that his character is assassinated completely. Not that the character is assassinated as is being done today. So, as a general reminder, this is the manhaj. The Quran, the aqidah is the most important thing. There's no excuse for anyone to undermine the matters of aqidah or to make him secondary to anything. Because the whole concept of the Quran and the Sunnah, the reason why Ayat al-Kursi is Ayat al-Kursi, or Surah al-Ikhlas is 1/3 of the Quran, is because it's about Allah Azza wa Jal. It's because it's teaching about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we say as a general principle, the aqidah is something that cannot be looked at as something that is secondary. It is the most important thing in our deen. And every one of us who's involved in da'wah has to make that effort to bring that to the people's attention. The importance of aqidah. Because when a person knows Allah, then the person knows the direction in which he goes to Allah. When the person doesn't know Allah, he will often lose the track at some point in time. So aqidah has to be important. The methodology. The methodology is also a very simple matter. It is not rocket science. How do you understand the Quran and the Sunnah? As was understood by our early Sahaba and those who came after them. That is, alhamdulillah, recorded in the books, available until now, translated to all the languages of the world. Wallahi, there's no excuse. For the one who's looking for the truth is not hiding in some very tiny place on earth and you have to travel the whole earth to find it. The truth is everywhere. When it comes to the way to Allah Azza wa Jal. We know the definition of the Sunnah, so we apply it. We know the definition of the bid'ah, so we avoid it. It's a very clear thing. Anytime someone adds something to the deen, do we accept or reject it? Khalas ya akhi. How many things, how many options apply to this one fundamental principle? Millions. People can invent a million things. You say, oh, this is so complicated. I need to know about these million things to know the path which leads to Jannah. No. You need to know one thing. If it's an addition, you don't need it. Khalas. See how simple it is? How many people are adding today? So many. So khalas, you figured out the way. These people who add, tell him, did the Sahaba do it? He cannot tell you yes. He cannot tell you yes. Therefore, he added something, done. This is now a path other than the manhaj of the Sahaba and the Salaf. It's a very simple equation. Very simple equation. So the person who's addressing the people will make that clear. When he starts telling you things which opposes that, things which undermine the Sahaba, things which belittle the status of the Sahaba, anything of the sort, that's a flag. The person is advised, he's talking to. If he changes the way, barakallahu fi wa zallah khairan. If he doesn't, khalas. Say, okay, alhamdulillah, barakallahu fiqh. That's your da'wah. We've had enough. We've had enough. We hope that you change soon. But we've had enough. It's a simple thing. No need for all this warfare. This is the path. This is the middle path. No names were mentioned, because mentioning names all the time is bringing sickness to the heart. And some people really misuse it and take it to a level that it does not deserve. So we hope and ask from Allah Azza wa Jal that He makes that a means of rectification, a means of success, a means of bringing the hearts together, a means of progress, a means of prosperity for the Muslims. That we're trying to solve these issues in a manner which we believe is pleasing to Allah as per the advice of the scholars. We're not going against the scholars in any of this. Some may say that, because of a usage of word that we have blind confidence. It's a crime to say we have blind confidence in the scholars. What is intended by blind confidence? That once a scholar is from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, you have to trust him. It doesn't mean he becomes ma'soom, infallible, but you have to trust them. Otherwise, how would you apply the ayah, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ? Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. How are you going to ask a shaykh if you're going to doubt everything the shaykh says? If you're not a student of hadith and Shaykh Albani tells you the hadith is sahih, you're just going to say, prove to me a shaykh it's sahih. You don't know the science. You don't know the science. So at some point, khalas, it's between him and Allah. So when we say we have blind confidence in the scholars, meaning once it has been understood that he is a shaykh of the sunnah, yes, we trust the ulama. We trust them. We don't think they're betraying the ummah. It doesn't mean that we blindly follow them. There's a difference between blindly following the imam or the shaykh and having blind confidence. Blind here is an exaggeration. Take it out. It's better not to use it. We have confidence in our ulama that they guide us to the path. And I believe the advice of Shaykh Uthaymeen hafidhahullah is very accurate. If I applied it and they applied it and all of the du'at applied it, it will bring a lot of goodness for the ummah. And a lot of this infighting will stop, and the end result is the Muslims will benefit. Because now they're not. They're only learning how to hate each other and one another, and this will only take us further away from the progress that has been promised to us. So, Allahumma musta'an. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد. Any questions related to the topic? Okay. We're just going to look at each other as usual. He's like, he's still there? Yes, I'm still here.
Sheikh, I have a question.
I'm not a sheikh. After all this, aywa. Yes, sir.
Barakallahu khair for addressing this topic.
Barakallahu feek.
I have a doubt. Can you please elaborate and distinguish between ulama, sheikh, imam, da'i, student of knowledge? How can we differentiate between them?
Okay, well, yeah. Very often, or sometimes they are synonymous terms. Like a alim is the shaykh. Alim is someone who has ilm, scholar. Yani he has knowledge of something. صح? And a shaykh in Saudi, for example, could be anyone. I found myself, wallahi, by mistake. I mean, we have this Christian guy who works with us, and he's the shaykh of the phones. So sometimes in the midst of a discussion, I give him the phone and fix. I say, "Ya Shaykh." Then I said, "Wait a second, man. I'm calling this Christian a Shaykh. He's not even a Muslim." So here they see a cat, they say a Shaykha. Yani it's so the term Shaykh can be used very much loosely. We even among the brothers say a Shaykh, like you hear it sometimes. Hello, but that is that common usage of the word. However, the word Shaykh is either someone who's old in age or senior in his knowledge. So let's say alim automatically is a shaykh, but now in reality not every shaykh is a alim. He could be a shaykh in a particular thing, but he's not necessarily a alim who's very knowledgeable. Then you have allama, which is an hyperbole, it's an exaggerated form of ilm, someone who's extremely knowledgeable. Then you have a student of knowledge, talibul ilm. From the talib is the one who's seeking, the one who continues to seek and learn, which is what we try to be. And then you have speakers and microphones. And then you have speakers who just speak. Now, of course, when they speak, they have to speak based on knowledge. But it does not mean that the speaker is a student of knowledge. Yani a student of knowledge is every speaker should be a student of knowledge, but not every student of knowledge could be a speaker. There are students of knowledge who don't really like to address the people. They just stay away from the whole thing and watch everything happen. Even though they have the ability, they take that sideline position. So he's talib ilm, but he's not a speaker. And some are speakers who could, and some who are speaking when they shouldn't be. And these are the levels. Wallahu alam. Does that answer your question? Could you please mention some names of the people of correct knowledge so we can benefit from it? Whoa! No. No, not really, because I learned the lesson hard. You know, I had one principle that I had promised myself to follow, and then I betrayed my own self, and I'm paying for it until now. Okay? In public, and when we speak behind, on our own, that's another discussion. I may tell you fulan. But publicly, I will no longer endorse anyone. Only if I'm speaking about the mashayikh, I'm quoting the mashayikh. As for other speakers, nothing to do with it. Because I did it once, and it brought good, and then it brought other things. And so I cannot mention any names because I can, look, simply, I'm responsible for myself. If I do something wrong, then I'm accountable for it. But when someone else does something wrong, and I told you to go ahead and enjoy, then I become also responsible for being the advocator or the recommender, the one who made the recommendation. And then I will have to withdraw the recommendation, which is a whole nother conflict. So to save myself this headache, I'll say I'm responsible for myself, so Allah al-Musta'an. As for others, I cannot really say anything because as they say, يعني الفتنة لا تؤمن على الحي. The fitna can afflict a living person. The dead people, they're done. خلاص, he left his ilm. Shaykh Uthaymeen ibn Taymiyyah, there is no fitna that will afflict him. Rahimahullah. But a person of today, he may change, and we've seen this, right? Fulan was the imam of this, and mashallah, tabarakallah, and zzz, all the way at the other side. All the way at the other side. So anyone who's telling people, Wallah, Fulan, Miya, listen, it's lecture, da da da, now he has to say, whoa, I take it back. When you take it back, why are you taking it back? So you bring trouble to yourself. That's what happened with me, personally. Therefore, I apologize, but I cannot fulfill this request. Long story, huh? Could have answered it in 2 words. But I wanted to explain, to justify it.
And dead people are okay.
Nah, dead people, okay. But then again, I don't know of any dead speakers. I mean, I had a broken one at home and I changed it the other day. But dead speakers like public, I don't know of any. Alhamdulillah, all of them are alive. But the ulama, na'am. We mentioned the names of Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, Shaykh bin Baz, Shaykh al-Albani, Shaykh bin Jibreen. These mashayikh, khalas, جزاهم الله khair, they've done their part. And we, whatever mistakes they might have done, inshallah, in the ocean of goodness that they were upon, it's nothing, inshallah. And we hope from Allah Azza wa Jal, because of the love which we have for them, that they were from the people of knowledge and the people of khair. But for others, be careful. Anything else?
You were mentioning about perception of people, that we are not supposed to think, when we meet somebody that he is a person of innovation, and we should believe that he is upon good.
Unless there are reasons to believe otherwise.
Exactly. Now, what happens is like we come from a community, from a society where most of them are from innovation.
Nah.
So we are forced to have that mindset of thinking otherwise. What do we do?
No, why? See, the thinking process is one that goes on in your mind. It has nothing to do with actions. What I'm saying is, you go back home, and in that locality, everybody is a grave worshipper.
Yeah.
صح?
Yeah.
Can you therefore, now everybody, I mean what it appears, can you therefore assume that every single individual, بعينه, himself, is a grave worshipper, and therefore treat them all accordingly? No. It's an epidemic, it's a phenomena, it's prevalent, but on an individual basis, you assume that he is worshipping Allah alone until you see him at the gravesite bowing to Maulana. Then you say, okay, now this became evident. Because if you were to do it the other way around, then you would fall into takfir, which is what happens to the youth. He learns some aqidah and some tawheed, then he goes back home and he tells you, my uncle and my aunt and my cousin and my nephew and my father and my mother, all of them are kuffar. Why? Because they worship the graves. And they worship dead people and they go to the dargah. Did you see all of them do this? No, I know it's common, but still, for you to say he has left Islam, you need to know first what you're doing and make sure that this has happened and that there are no other shubuhat and so on and so forth. Once the hujjah has been established, which could be very simple things, khalas, then okay, that's another discussion. But people usually don't follow this process of being gradual. They just pass judgments that everybody is a kafir, and therefore they fall into a really serious issue of takfir. So no, you still stick to the asl. The asl is in any believer is that he is worshipping Allah alone, because that's what made him Muslim. Until you see him doing something else, then you deal with him accordingly. And nowadays there's a lot of sahwa and awakening. So you'll be shocked. People who you thought were worshipping the dead might have left that alone some time ago and are upon the sunnah now. So I mean, you cannot really tell nowadays until you see something that is evident. Khalas? It's 10:30. Jazakum